Kristy, we're going to jump right in. She and I were chatting earlier. So, Katie and I always talk about how we learn so much from our guests and just their personal and professional experiences. And so, Kristy, we always start off with asking, please share with our audience a little bit about you, both personally and professionally.
Hi, everybody. I started my career in the corporate America world, had a great time for many, many years. My husband got transferred to Hawaii, and I decided I don't want to be in corporate America anymore. I suddenly decided to take a major shift. I was in insurance, from health insurance, property casualty insurance, and then moved up to the nonprofit space. Started as a consultant in operational efficiencies, and then got blessed with the opportunity to join Girl Scouts of Hawaii, where I spent 7 incredible years just reshaping their organization. Had the best, most incredible time. And after launching and doing a construction project with them for 6 months, I was like, it's time to hang up my Girl Scout hat. And had the opportunity to join Move for Hunger, where I had been for 3 years, almost 3.5 years now, as the Chief Operating Officer. Professionally, it has been quite a journey. I never thought I'd find myself in logistics, but here I am. I'm a mom of 2 daughters. My husband is a retired United States Marine, and I've moved all throughout my life, it seems, all over the place. We spent 11 years in Hawaii. I've been in Florida, and I'm currently in Montana.
All right. Okay. So you've been now, you said, in logistics for about 3 years. As you came into this space, um, what made you decide like this is it? This is where I want to be. I'm loving supply chain.
When I first interviewed with Adam, it was even before I started in the space. One of the questions I asked him was, so what is Move for Hunger's place in the supply chain? And he's like, well, we're basically a logistics nonprofit. And I was like, tell me more. It sucked me in from the moment because it just made so much sense.
Yeah. And then how would you describe, so you've just met somebody, you just moved, maybe again. How would you describe what you do to somebody that you've just met?
So, logistics nonprofit, meaning I turn logistics problems into impact solutions. I help organizations see waste and inefficiencies as underutilizing capacity, not as failures, and opportunities to do better for the planet and for their communities.
Oh, I love that. So you talk about Christy, that yeah, it's not like a traditional food bank. It is a logistics network. So from a COO's perspective, what is the biggest operational challenge in coordinating a fleet of assets that you don't actually own? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, the biggest challenge has to be in that alignment without authority. We don't own the trucks. We don't own a warehouse. We don't store food. So we have to really earn trust. That means building these relationships and these systems that are easy to opt in, clear to execute, and valuable for our partners. Operationally, it requires tight standards, strong communication, and a deep respect for our partners, understanding that their primary business needs always come first to them as well. Its participation adds friction, it fails. They're not going to join. Our job is to make doing good operationally smart.
Mm.
I love that if participation adds friction, like it won't work, because I think that is so true in so many things that we try and transform and make changes on. The harder you make it, the harder it is for people to opt in. Love that. Okay. I saw this quote from you and I kind of loved it. So you were quoted as that you were on a mission to quote, tackle food waste like a boss. And so in the supply chain world, we often view waste as it's a cost issue. That's what it is. Like we made something and now we have to throw it out. How do you flip the script so that people really view food waste as actually a resource allocation issue? Because I think that is differently, looking at it differently. And then can you talk a little bit about like your reverse logistics model and how it actually captures that value?
When we got really started thinking about logistics in the space and supply chain as a real area we needed to focus in on, one of the things I learned very quickly was that per shipper, 55 truckloads of food and beverage items are lost per year. Blew my mind. That's a supply chain issue, right? So in terms of food waste, it's mismatched between supply, timing, and destination. The food exists, the transportation exists, the need exists. What's missing is coordination. Rejected loads happen. Gets a day late, the bill of landing is a little bit messed up, packages get crunched. Our reverse logistic model captures the value by redirecting that surplus food through existing lanes. No new trucks, no new emissions, just better decisions. Instead of destroying it, we're diverting it to a donate platform. There are federal laws in protection in both the United States and Canada that help make this make sense to businesses. So really it's about education and reframing that waste is a solvable routing problem and everything else changes.
So,
Started on that. Like, I don't even like, you know what I mean? Like, I hear this, I'm like, sign me up. How does this work? Like, where do you and how do you get started on that?
So we actually went to Manifest our very first time in 2023. I said, do we go to Manifest? Supply chain show. We got to be there. And everybody was like, why? And I was like, we need to be there. We sat at dinner and we launched our program called Charity Freight. Charity Freight takes the best of the logistics and transportation communities and says, how can we help you do good? You're going to give us the best rates. We'll join an exclusive network where we put all of our paid transport that we're paying for, frankly, either way. And then you're also committing to donating loads and doing good with us. That allows them to activate and get the best rates when they're coming back. It gives them a model to put in front of their customers. Hey, we have a charity partner, which most of them had never even thought through. And it also helps them solve the waste problem I mentioned before, right? So if they're dealing with a rejected load, the cargo got shifted and those packages are crumpled. When they go back to their customer, they can instantly say, we have a solution for this. Can you allow us to donate it instead of destroying it? They become a hero. They become a champion. I don't often know Sally's story who goes to the food bank, but I know Bob the trucker. And I can make Bob a hero every single day in an industry where he's not often known.
Oh, that.
and so Kristy, you talked about this where they're not your trucks, you're dealing with a lot of partners. How do you guarantee the quality of the food? How do you make sure that there's brand consistency when you really don't have control over those things?
Because we work with the best of the best in the supply chain and logistics space, one, they're taking great care with these loads. They know that this is going to a food bank and communities in need. We give assets back to the food and beverage partners so that they know that their product is being treated respectfully. And then on the end, our partners at the food banks and food pantries are checking those products to make sure that they are of quality, that they're going to be handled with integrity, right? Food access is integrity worthy. When you shouldn't have to worry about, am I getting good, safe food? So we work with our partners at the food banking level to make sure that that happens.
Thank you.
All right. So this one, I wanted to talk a little bit about your different experience because you've worked in quite a few nonprofits. Your background is deeply rooted. I loved the story. I would love to dig into more of that too, like what you did for the Girl Scouts in Hawaii. And you're really all about organizational optimization. And so I think sometimes people think about nonprofits as like, are they slower? Are they less efficient than the private sector? That can often be a misconception. So how do you apply like rigorous, almost like for-profit efficiency standards, if you will, to a mission-driven organization, just to make sure that every dollar counts, every mile that gets donated counts too?
I think nonprofits are actually a little bit better at this, right? We care about that every dollar. And oftentimes we have to justify every dollar, right? I have to
That's a really good point.
who's funding something and tell them what I did with their dollars. I have to be transparent and I have to be authentic. But I want to back that up a little bit. Efficiency and empathy aren't two different opposite spectrums. They're actually, efficiency is often the least compassionate option if you are inefficient, right? You're inefficient. That means people are not getting access to the goods and services a nonprofit is filling the gap for. Whether that's food, whether that's medical care, whether that's housing, it does not matter. If you're not efficient in getting them and responding to them, meeting them with the needs that they have, then you're actually causing more harm. It's like throwing money after a problem and thinking that's going to solve everything without addressing the issues surrounding it. When we track pounds, route efficiencies, partner retention, staff workload, just like a for-profit would. Every dollar saved is a dollar of food that we can then deliver. Every optimized mile reduces emissions. Missions deserve discipline. It does not matter if you're for-profit or nonprofit.
I love it.
I do too. And I think when I hear your passion for your work today, and a lot of people feel like I've picked a path, how do I do something different? Or I'm in a for-profit. So you were a senior operations manager for the Girl Scouts of Hawaii, before taking the helm at Move for Hunger. So for those that think they need like a traditional path into supply chain or logistics, can you talk about how those skills that you had previously are really coming to life in your work today? And just how those things were connected and just a little bit more about your path.
Yeah. And before I was even a nonprofit, like I said, I was in corporate America, not in the industry at all. So not connected, you would think. My time at Girl Scouts taught me to think in systems. A little bit about my title was a mismatch. I worked every day managing membership, volunteers, programming, compliance, but I did it across islands. I worked at the national level as well. So we're talking across councils, across boundaries, states, even across international borders. Those things translate directly. Stakeholder management is stakeholder management, whether you are talking supply chain or pharmaceuticals, it doesn't matter. Distributed leadership, resource constraints, scale without infrastructure. You don't need a traditional logistics degree. I actually have a degree in sustainability and international business and public administration. So none of those things say supply chain. But the heart of logistics, in my opinion, is that you need to understand people, process, and purpose.
I love that. I think we talk about that too. A lot, whether it's new technology rollout, transformation, like when you have those three things, people feel connected to the work, right? Yeah, it just makes a lot of things go better. Okay. We want to switch over a little bit more towards leadership. And it's interesting because you're wearing your chief sweatshirt today. And this is one of the things we wanted to ask you about. So you were recently recognized as a Chief New Era of Leadership honoree, and a Women in Supply Chain Trailblazer. As you sit in the room with other powerful women in this network, what is a common thread that you're hearing regarding like the future of the workforce, maybe regardless of industry? And what do you think women leaders are doing differently, like right now, to meet that moment?
I sit in a lot of leadership spaces, from chief to SHRM. Chief, I'm very proud of, very honored by the award I received. But the comment that I'm hearing women leaders say is they're designing work around humans, not forcing humans to work in systems. They're really rethinking the way that we work and how we approach. I recently gave a talk about how leaders need boundaries, right? It's often, the thing that you don't want to think about. You want people to be human centered and really focused on the people around them. But I said, but you have, as a leader, need a boundary, because oftentimes, if we take on everything for our employees, when we have to make those hard decisions, all we're thinking about is all of that employee and what they're going to on a personal level. I'm not thinking about my 50 other employees that are also impacted by my decision. I have to be able to compartmentalize. And a lot of female leaders are struggling with that. Where's empathy and balance? They're prioritizing flexibility, clarity, succession planning, psychological safety, but demanding results. And it's not a softer style of leadership. It's just smarter.
So, Kristy, can you talk about, so not everybody knows what Chief is. So, like, what is Chief? How did you learn about it? Can anybody join? Like, what is that process?
Chief is a executive network for women leaders. You have to be in the executive level. There is an invitation process, so you can be invited or you can self-nominate by going to the Chief website and saying, I'm interested. They go through a rigorous screening interview process to determine that you are a right fit for the network. And then after that, you're put in one of the membership pathways. And they've just changed them all, so I don't know them all specifically, but I can tell you about my experience. I have a core group of women that I have been connected with since I started Chief. And we have been through many journeys, career changes, professional growth, life changes, moves, and we're there to show up and support each other. We meet once a month. It's a commitment to each other and to ourselves to just carve out time for each other. And we talk all things professional experience.
Love that. I think as we talk to people about you mentioned it earlier, Kristy, there's so many different networking opportunities or groups, and it is hard to figure out what's the right one. And it's awesome that you were telling me prior to recording just your experience with Chief, and I've seen it on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. So it's just great to hear your experience and how positive it's been.
Yeah, there's a lot of networks. It's so easy to get pulled into 50 directions. I'm a member of several, as I said. And what I've found, the ones that make the most sense are the ones you're intentional about. So whatever network you join. And I recommend networks. whatever one you join, be intentional, show up with purpose, and be authentic. And you're going to gain so much more than you're giving at one moment.
I love that. Okay, so you describe yourself as an implementation consultant, someone who fixes processes. And I think a lot of women listening, myself and Katie included, we would say we are natural fixers. And with that, you can get kind of stuck in this like execution mode. And so, do you have advice on how to elevate? Because I don't know, I feel like I've gotten, I don't know if Katie's getting like, people say, oh, you're not very strategic, or, and it's like, am I not? Or, I don't know. I think there's just like a little bit of bias there. But can you talk about how do you get that strategic thinking and vision and make sure others see that in you?
Yeah. So first, I think it starts with you need to narrate your impact, right? It's not just about solving the problem. It's why it mattered, how you approached it, what you unlocked. It's not just a simple, I did X. Strategy isn't a title. So I have actually held titles that had strategy in them. They mean nothing. I'll tell you this. It's pattern recognition plus communication, right? So that's strategy. If you want to be seen as strategic, connect your execution to your outcomes. Leadership care about, not what you care about, what your leaders care.
I think that's important because I even think about it, even when you're recognizing somebody else, right? Instead of just saying like, hey, good job. It's like, actually, this was the impact you had. Because sometimes I think in the moment, sometimes you don't even realize maybe the impact that you had, and having that other leader come in and saying, hey, because you asked this question or because you challenged this way of thinking, it resulted in, X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. So I love that. So how are you sharing the narrative? Like, you didn't just solve this problem.
Yeah.
You solved this problem, and then this was the full impact. And also, like, how do you recognize others when they're doing that too, and maybe helping them communicate their narrative? Like, I look at that both ways.
The other thing I liked is the impact that your leaders care about. And I think making sure you're clear is like, we just had a goal setting kind of session event of like, these are the things that really matter, and that my organization, it matters to my boss, my organization. And I always tell people, if you do those things well, if you don't do some other things well, I don't know if anybody cares. So I do think making sure you're crystal clear. When I do my monthly updates with my boss, I always keep at the top, like, what have you done for me lately? So I'm like, hey, this is what I've delivered. And then I'm always like, these are my priorities, or these are the things that you think are the most important. So you don't get too far away from that, and that you're like not thinking something is the thing. And they're like, that was like 2 weeks ago. We don't care about that anymore. So I think that's a really good nugget.
From the bottom up too, I think that there is a shift that needs to happen. So I do this with my teams. I ask them what they need from me. And I learned that because I had a leader who did it for me. He said the same thing. What do you need? And when I coach my new staff through it, I say, I'm not your boss. You have a boss who you report to, who does your daily assignments and all of that. I'm a sounding board to you. So when you really think through, what do you need from me to be successful? Is it more clarity around that goal? Is it even understanding what the goal means? Is it filling in how you plug into that goal? Whatever it is, it's your responsibility as my junior employee to ask that question, and it's my responsibility as your leader to show up and give you the answers.
I like that too. You're opening the door for someone to ask more questions, right? By sharing, like, because I think sometimes it can feel hard, or should I? And when you're like, no, it's your responsibility to do this. Like, that does.
It's true.
Right? Yeah. So a little straighter. I'm ready. You do. Yeah. Yeah.
Good try. Yeah.
Yep.
I like that.
Okay, Kristy, one of the things you shared earlier around your personal life is how you move around. You call yourself a military family cheerleader, which I love. I'm an Air Force brat, so I also moved around. Can you talk a little bit about how that agility, because picking up and moving and starting over again every few years, it's a lot. It requires agility and just, I think, a different personal resilience. Could you talk a little bit about how maybe navigating military life has actually influenced in how you show up in the supply chain world?
Spouse, and I got used to going into spaces I didn't know anybody and just being like, hi, hello. I'm not naturally an extroverted person. I'm an introverted extrovert. But I got used to have to say, no, no, I belong here too. And I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to meet people, and I'm going to form my new network. And I took that same philosophy and I applied it to conferences. I took that same philosophy and I applied it to supply chain. I don't know anything. I don't know anybody, but I'm going to make a space for myself. And I think that that adaptability, that resilience, it's not just toughness. It's really that trust and preparation that I trust that I have a space here. And I'm willing to be very vulnerable and say, I don't know all the answers. Please teach me. You know, I said at the top, when we built Charity Freight, we didn't build it in a vacuum. We had a conversation with one of our charity freight, who became our first charity freight partner, and said, we don't know anything. This is what we think will work. Will it work? And we sat back and we listened and we learned. And I think being a military spouse, being a military dependent, because my dad's a retired Coast Guard officer, it allowed me to just be very vulnerable and very authentic and ask questions and kind of own the space in a way that I'm not sure you get otherwise, if you're just not thrown into it.
I will say, every time I move, Katie is my like moving buddy because she can unpack and put a house together. I'm like, it's amazing. I mean, she's like, no, we're undoing this room next. I'm like, it is like a skill set. She's like, we'll put stuff on the walls because I will just like, oh, I'll just wait for forever. But it's like the little things around like when you know how to mobilize quickly and like yeah, I'm like yeah, it's a gift that Katie has.
Here's a little fun fact. I'm still fire. So in military moves, you get these little stickers on all of your belongings. Years later, we've been in Montana for 6 years, out of the military now for 10 years. And we're still finding the darn little ditty stickers on our stuff. Oh, that was a pink move. That was a green move, right? Like you just develop systems and you just kind of go about it. You don't have a choice, I think, is the other key part of it, right? When you're in it, you just don't.
You gotta move through it. And even though you don't have a choice, you can still embrace to be positive about it, I think. So yeah, I like to set up house rules.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm like, it's a skill set.
Stuff up on walls, I'm going.
She's going. Like I'll go ahead.
We got our first shipment of stuff when we moved to Hawaii, like 10 days on island. And you're like, okay, great. We're still living in a hotel. Thanks for sending me my stuff. Okay, what do I do with my kitchen appliances that came in? And then, you get your house and your next shipment of stuff comes in and you're like, great. Okay, now I got to unpack my house and do all of this stuff. And then your other final shipment, if depending on your move, comes in and you're like, okay, now what do I do to fit all of my old life into my new life? And I think that when we think about supply chain, we also have to think about that. Like, how are we fitting into what's existing? And how are we going to adapt it, do away with things that no longer are in service, remain agile so that we can take on new things? We're seeing that now with AI coming in more and more into the supply chain and how it's changing the industry. It's never going to stop. So that was my little consent.
Kristy, before we end, can you think of you've been very broad and great career. Like, was there advice that like you got early on that really stuck with you, or something that you just like remember to this day that you're like, that kind of helped you as you navigated all these different stages of your life and career?
Navigating life without a mentor, you're going to set yourself up for a really hard race. You should have mentors at different stages and that do different things for you throughout your career. And then you need to turn it back around and be a mentor of yourself. Right? I am very blessed to have mentors that have been part of my career for 20 plus years. And some of them I speak to on a regular. Some of them I only speak to when I'm really just stuck on something that's spiraling. I have been a mentor to college students, to young professionals, to career advanced people who are making career changes. Giving and being of service actually fills your cup even more, right? Because I'm learning new things from my mentees every single day. And that has been probably the most impactful thing I was ever told, is to be open to hearing constant feedback and giving feedback.
Okay, I love that.
Love that too. It's a great way to end it.
Yes, this has been so great, Kristy, to meet you and just hear about what you do. And Kristy gave me this, like, I don't know if anybody else knows, you can be in the Girl Scouts and not be in a troop and do like an independent. I'm like learning new things. So it's just been so great to have you and hearing your story. And thanks for coming
I
on the
appreciate
podcast.
it. Thanks for giving me the space to talk about what I do, talk about supply chain leadership, all things. Um, I wish you nothing but success, and I can't wait to hear the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.